Well, we left off in the middle of God talking. God has two paragraphs here, and so we just divided it up into two different days. But let's get a running start at where we are. There's a covenant ceremony going on. Abram's in this deep sleep, so the Lord's speaking to him in a vision. And he's saying, know for certain, or you ought to know for sure, that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land, a land that does not belong to them. They will serve them, and then the people of that land will oppress them, your seed, for 400 years. So on the one hand, he's giving Abram assurances. On the other hand, he's letting him know in advance and letting all his descendants know in advance. There's going to be some rough going between now and when you come to inherit this land. In this section, we have Vagam et Hagoy asher ya'avodu dan Anoki. So, having given the bad news, he's now shifting focus, and also et Hagoy, the nation, asher ya'avodu, which is a pausal form with an accent that's not typically giving us pausal forms. But let's take it apart. We've got the u on the end, so that's always a plural verb. When it's not a pronominal suffix, right? Part of who or something. And then we've got a prefix yod and first radical ayin there, trying to make a pretonic closed short vowel. The ayin's giving us a composite shava instead of a simple shava. And the yod has a patak. So maybe our first thought of prefix with patak is hifil, but because R1 is a guttural, a kal can have a patak under the prefix. And when we look at the theme vowel, that cholam with R2, we know indeed it's kal because only kals have a U-class theme vowel in the prefix paradigms. So the nation which they will serve, Dan Anoki. Dan is from Dean to judge. We've dropped out the second radical and we have a kametz there. There's two different forms that do that. One is the perfect, like a perfect 3ms, but we've already got Anoki there telling us that it's not 3ms. The other one is the participle. If we have second vav and yod roots, when they become a participle in the kal, they drop the second radical and they get kametz there. So I am judge, or I am judging, implying, of course, the future. I will judge the nation whom they serve. If this had been hene with the participle, we would always expect the action that the participle refers to be near future, like at least within the lifetime of the person who is being spoken to. Here we don't have the hene, and clearly we've got a marked time reference for it to be in the distant future. So that's pretty rare for the participle to do that, but we've got that time reference, and so we know that in this case it is. So I will judge the nation that they serve, ve'acharei kain, and after thus, and after that, better English, yetza'u. Is that a perfect or is that an imperfect, yetza'u? Because the root's yatsa. Yeah, this is an imperfect because the kal perfect would have had kametz under an R1 yod, and the R1 yod has become part of that seirei underneath the prefix yod. So after that, they will come out birakush gadol. So we've seen rakush in some previous chapters, the stuff, the equipment, the paraphernalia, possessions. Possessions is better in this context here. They will come out with a whole bunch of possessions, with a whole bunch of stuff. V'ata, and perhaps we would say new topic here, vav plus pronoun, shifting topic. Maybe we should call this yet another paragraph within what God says. V'ata, but you, tavo, right? And bo is the root. R2 vav and R2 yod words use their infinitive construct as their lexical form. And the imperfect is pretty much built by taking the infinitive and sticking the prefixes on there. So the root is bo, the form here is tavo. Why the kametz under the prefix? because before Yiktol was the pattern, it was Yaktul. And so the syllable has opened up because the first radical bet has had to go lead a syllable. And the prefix then gets a pretonic open long syllable, and it's the original A class vowel back there of the cow that is lengthening, not the Hirik. And so we have tavo. But you will enter or go to avoteka. So ka from ta, from ata. What's the yod before the ka? Yeah, that's the connector that goes on to plural nouns when they get a pronominal suffix. And avot. Is that a feminine plural noun? No, I mean, lots of times you would see oat for a feminine plural ending, but you look at this word, it's av, a father. Father is not a feminine noun. So it's an odd one. And a lot of the short words that have seemingly just two radicals do some funny things with their endings. You have it with ach, you get achi, you get a Hirik yod for the singular construct form. And av takes oat for its plural, even though it's masculine. So anyway, you will enter to your fathers, your ancestors, bishalom, in peace. Then tikaver b'seva tova. So tikaver, nothing at the end. What's at the beginning? Prefix tav, so 2ms or 3fs, but he's still talking to Abram, so we know pretty confidently it's 2ms. What's going on with R1? R1 is sitting over top of kametz. It's also holding a dagesh forte, so phonetically there's two kofs there, and the first of those two is closing a syllable that is begun by the prefix, which has Hirik. Where do we get the dagesh forte from? That is the nifal's noon, Hirik dagesh kametz. That's the distinctive thing for the nifal in the prefixed verb conjugations. Kavar is to bury, so the nifal is going to be passive, to be buried. So you will go to your forefathers in peace. You will be buried with seva, gray-haired, and tova, good. You will be buried with a good set of gray hair, or a good gray head of hair. Vador revi'i yashuvu hena. So dor means generation. Revi'i is fourth. Like arba is four. We've lost that initial radical, but revi'i is fourth. So the fourth generation, yashuvu. So is that from yashav or from shuv? Pretty easy to say that it's from shuv, right? Because the infinitive is sitting right there in the middle of it, shuv. And why the kametz? Same thing with tavo, right? Once R2 becomes a vowel, R1 has to lead the syllable, and the prefix now needs a pretonic open long syllable, and it gets kametz because of the original patak. All right, so shuv means to return. The fourth generation will return hena, will return here. That is not the third feminine pronoun, personal pronoun, third feminine plural. That means like to here. It's a deictic particle. The fourth generation will return here, and then he tells him the reason for all this trouble that is standing in between right now and the descendants inheriting the land. Ki lo shalem avon ha'emori ad hena. But let's go to the beginning. Ki, because lo shalem, it's related to shalom, shalom, whole, complete, etc. Here, it's just complete. Because not complete is the avon. Now, avon can either be the iniquity, the wrongdoings, or it can be the guilt from that. Here, we might be able to justify either translation. The iniquity of the Amorites is not complete, ad hena, to this point in time, or the guilt of the Amorites is not complete, is not filled up enough ad hena to this point in time. So one of the questions that comes up in discussing this, or maybe depending on the commentary you're reading, it's already assumed, is that the covenant here doesn't tell Abram any requirements on his part. It's all promissory, it's unconditional, it's irrevocable, etc. But that's a little bit short-sighted. It's kind of based on a time that we didn't know as much about covenants in the ancient Near East. And, it looked like there were two classifications, ones that had stipulations and ones that did not. But that was too simplistic. Now that we have seen a lot more of them, we know there's a lot fuzzier boundary. Plus, when somebody's being rewarded for past acts of loyalty, it may not state what stipulations are because in a sense they were already met, but it's still assumed that the person being granted something, say a land grant, is going to continue in loyalty, and if they're not, then the suzerain's going to come and take that away from them. You don't get to rebel and continue to have the benefit of the suzerain's protection. And this whole chapter has been set up to explore the assurance of seed and what's going to happen. And now here we are saying there's going to be some really rough stuff in between now and the seed, the descendants inheriting the land. They're going to be oppressed, but we're also starting to bring up the notions of requirements on people. God works at a national scale as well as an individual scale. Israel is going to be oppressed, but the oppressor is going to be judged. The Amorites are not going to be allowed to inherit or possess the land forever because of a consequence of their own iniquity. Israel will see the same thing when they come out of Egypt. The generation that does that is not going to be allowed to go and possess the land either because of their iniquity in the wilderness, and Israel is going to be driven out of the land into exile because of their iniquities later on. So maybe we tend to have a really individualistic look at some of these things, and so we feel odd or uncomfortable when God works at a national scale like that, but he evidently does. And so because of the allusions to national judgment that are present in this passage, and remembering that Moses is writing to the generation that actually came out of Egypt and was denied entering the land, that bound up in what's going on here are the implications that there are requirements on the people in order to actually realize the promise of having the land. We would still say that the promises are irrevocable, but whatever generation actually gets to realize those promises depends on whether or not they behave in a way that is loyal to the Lord. Okay, one more paragraph. We'll finish up this episode, and then we'll be on to Genesis 16.